Congratulations, man.
Oh, thank
Honestly,
you very much.
on multiple things. The new album is
Thank you.
fire. It's been my workout music for the past couple of weeks.
Love it.
Got some
Come
tracks on
now.
there that I really, really like. And I mean, a 28-year career, still going strong, still touring like crazy. And from what I see, doing it all while maintaining your faith, your family, and your sanity. When most people think of rock and roll and touring, it's hardly known to be the most sort of stable or wholesome way of life. But you seem to have just maintained who you are and maintained your values. And I know, of course, your wife Corey is part of the band. But can you just talk to me a little bit about that? Like how have you done it? I don't even know if that's the right question.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. I like how you say your faith, your family, and sanity. Because there's enough insanity to go around these days. You know, it didn't used to be that way, really. Nothing like to the level it has been really since, gosh, I don't know, 2018. I feel like is when it really kicked in for me in America.
But rock was crazy well before that.
That's true because of sex, drugs, rock and roll. You know, that's the mantra. I think that's where it begins with me, is that rock music to me was never about sex, drugs, ever. It was about, it makes me feel good. I mean, it's just that simple. Rock music makes me feel good. It makes me work out harder at the gym, you know, and I played basketball and I ran track and on the off seasons, we'd work out with the football team or whatever like that. Of course, you look more like you could work out for the football team, but I was there, okay? And we were listening to Metallica and Motley Crue and AC/DC. It was just like, well, you wouldn't work out without heavy metal. That would just be stupid. That's how we felt growing up. And music just made you feel better. And you also got to remember, going back to not having internet, you know, when I was growing up, my mom died from cancer when I was 14 years old. And she fought cancer for 3 years. So in other words, I had a good 3-year devastating period where my mom was very, very sick, almost died, was in remission for about 10 months. It comes back again, more surgery, more radiation, more chemo. You're living with somebody who is on death's door for 3 years. And I don't have a phone. I don't have anybody to text. I don't have anything to watch on my phone or to get my friends or to FaceTime. There's none of that. All there is your headphones. You know, all there is music. And music makes you feel better, and it helps you fight the demons. And that's what music always was for me. So when I wanted to start writing music, I wanted to write music to help people the way music helped me. And so when we first started, there was sometimes, you know, we didn't get radio at first, because they're like, Skillet, oh, wait a minute, I heard they're Christian, or they're too positive. We used to hear that. You guys are just too positive. And then that became a good thing. Around 2008, 2010, people started saying, I love Skillet, it's so positive. It flipped. And we had girls in the band. That wasn't very cool in the 90s and in the 2000s. But then it flipped, and people went, that's so cool. They got girls in the band, and it's positive, and it's spiritual. And so that positivity is it's authentic, because I believe that music helps people. And so that's kind of my story. That's how we've done it all this time. And we're a family, literally a family, because my wife is in the band. My 2 kids grew up on the road. They're adults now. My daughter just got married. She's 22. My son's 19. So our kids grew up on the road. They come overseas with us. It just brought a whole stability to the whole thing. And that's how we've done it, man.
Amazing, man. I want to talk a little bit more about different aspects of that. So initially you had your fan base from early on, but you were saying you were receiving criticism for being too positive.
Yeah.
And then something flipped around 2008. What do you think caused that switch?
You know, culture just started shifting. And I don't know who all's watching this, but if people can put themselves in the mindset of the 90s, even if you're too young to have been there, I will just say this. I like to think of art when I describe time periods. If you want to know what the 90s was like, you would think of Fight Club, the film. You would think of American Psycho, the film. Maybe you think of Korn, the metal band, who are friends of mine. I think that probably the best living live band in the world right now. But they're good friends. But I don't think that I'm being unfair to them to say that 90s vibe, very nihilistic, very dark, very much. Because what happened was the 80s was all about like just living the excessive life. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, mo money, drugs. It was just like if you get enough money, it was very materialistic. Enough money, enough sex, enough Hollywood, you will be a happy person. 90s comes in, Nirvana comes into the picture, which is one of the defining bands of the 90s, and everybody realized we've been lied to. Materialism doesn't work at all because suicide rates are soaring, divorce rates soaring, kids are depressed, and they're like, why? My parents have it all, but we have nothing. And so the 90s came in and it showed the lie that materialism doesn't work. All that is bullcrap, and all these bands came in and they just revolted. They just revolted against it. So the 90s was a very dark time for music. That's why the music's so good. Mm-hmm. The lyrics were so it's true though, right?
It's true in hip hop as well.
True in hip hop as well.
Yeah.
Because hip hop was the same. NWA, you had that sort of stuff, very dark, aggressive and angry. That began to shift, I think, probably, in the mid 2000s as just more of the self-help started kind of coming in, more of the, we need to be positive. People were looking for answers, and I think that Skillet was a band that had been authentically doing that. We didn't have to change our vibe to try to meet the new standard. We had always been doing that. And I think it made people feel they believed us. How's that?
Yeah. Was there a particular moment that you felt was like a breakthrough? I know your track Monster did a lot
Monster.
That was it?
Yeah, Monster, we had a hard time getting it played, which a lot of people don't know. It's one of the biggest streaming hard rock songs of all time right now, actually. Not for a self-brag, but to say it's crazy because a lot of people still don't know the band Skillet. But they'd be like, oh, I do know that song, Monster, because we couldn't get it played at first. Could not get it played at radio.
Why is that?
I think that we just had a lot of stigmas. They didn't like that I'm a very vocal believer, follower of Jesus. Mm-hmm. They didn't like that so much. That didn't kind of fit into the...
And when you say they, who is that?
I would say the industry, not the fans.
Okay.
I find the fans to be pretty inclusive. I don't think they care, they listen to Johnny Cash. He was a follower of Jesus. They listen to Elvis. I think they didn't really care about that. But the industry is sort of like, just like you have it now with media and Hollywood, like all these levers of power that are all really given to this one narrative. And that one narrative in the rock industry was sex, drugs, rock and roll. And you go and you visit a radio station and they want to party. Yeah. I wanted to play my music, Some of them supported us, but a lot of the industry was kind of like, I don't know, this is one of our bands, the girls. They didn't quite get the girls in the band. Now, They wouldn't necessarily mind the girls in the band if the girls are different kinds of girls. You know what I mean? If it has a different thing.
Mm-hmm. Different aesthetic.
Different aesthetic. Yeah. That's a very smart way to say what I was thinking, brother. That's why we're here. Yeah. So I think that those things played in. The positivity thing also was another thing. Monster came out, had a hard time getting it played. And you know who picked it up? That I always brag on them because I owe a lot to WWE.
Okay.
WWE picked up the song. They played it for like their Hell in a Cell thing. And it went wild. And they said, hey, we'd like to use it as our theme song for Raw for the season. And I was like, yes, please. Yes, please. And it was a huge...
And that was like primetime WWE.
Oh, yeah. 2009.
Yeah.
And it was huge for us. And little by little, radio started picking up. Never made it to number one. It eked into the top 5, but it was the number 3 most played hard rock song of the year. And that is finally what made Skillet, in the scene. And we've always been sort of an outsider, but that song was very ubiquitous. So very thankful to WWE and all the rock stations that played it. They ended up going, okay, they won us over.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So how did things change from then?
You know, from then I think what happened is we had always just worked our butts off. So the first time we had a radio hit was 13 years, you know, into our career, right? So it's like our sixth record actually. So we just kept being us, you know? I mean, I hate to say it like so tritely. We were just being real. That is what we wanted to do.